Welcome once again, everybody, to the Autodromo José Carlos Pache, the Interlagos, the home of Brazilian motorsport in downtown Sao Paulo. This is the scene of the season finale for the Porsche Endurance Challenge Brazil. And it's going to be a fascinating battle later on today where we have 500 kilometers or 4 hours of racing, or 117 laps, whichever comes first. Now, 117 laps is, of course, 500 kilometers. But if it takes a little bit longer than that, 4 hours and 15 minutes is the cutoff for our race today. But it will crown us a champion. It's going to be a massive fight in the title between our two cars of two drivers, Marcel Müller and Enzo Elias in the 544, the Fabian Petrus car that saw Marcel Müller take the championship in the Porsche Carrera Cup 3 days ago, I should say, on the rescheduled races from Sao Paulo. And in the number 8 car, the Maior car, Werner Neugebauer and Rubens Barrichello, former Formula One driver, going to battle for the third and final time this year. They have 1 win and 1 second place apiece. You're seeing footage of last night's attempts to finish the job in the classification of the challenge category. Unfortunately, the last part of qualifying was rained and dimmed off, partly because of the rain, but partly because of the fading light at the circuit. There was not enough visibility to give the drivers a fair go at the second shot of timed qualifying. So we're back this morning, bright and early, just gone 9 o'clock in the morning. It's 11 minutes past 9 in actuality. And it's going to be a fascinating continuation of the battle now as we prepare for good action out on the course for the next 19 minutes or so. The green flag has been underway for the last 19 minutes. This is a chance for the second named drivers of these cars to go to battle after we had qualifying sessions for them yesterday for their number 1 drivers in the team. Number 1, of course, is not the hierarchy. It's just the drivers that were named first. We can talk a little bit about the Sprint Challenge qualifying times yesterday. It was Edu Santos that went quickest with a 1:38.911 time in front of Antonella Bassani, who did a 1:40.358. She did a fantastic job in the qualifying session. Then Luis Souza in the number 2 car managed to get a 1:40.529 second lap time. We thought initially it was Bruno Bonifacio that was in the car, but in actuality it was Luis Souza. In fact, no, I actually think it was right the first time. It was Bruno Bonifacio that was out there on the circuit. Gabriel Rob was the one who set the lap time yesterday, a 1:38.911. Antonella Bassani then went out and went second. Then Bruno Bonifacio third from Sarah Gleiter, Alcifel Manito, and Luis Landi in the top 6. The remaining drivers that go out on this 20-minute session is the second driver for each car. And we've got all 12 of them out there on the circuit now. So Edu Santos has taken over for Gabriel Roba. Rembano has climbed into the number 44 car that he shares with Giovanni Budichelli and Torresano. So Torresano is actually not going to be the driver who races until the race itself. And then we have the fantastic youngster, the number 17. Gajdzinski was in the car yesterday. Nito is in the car today. So we'll get to see what he can do. Then we'll have Vitor Batista climb behind the wheel of the number 23, Leonardo Herman's machine. That'll be fascinating to see how he gets on as we currently keep our eye on Luis Souza, who is now behind the wheel of the number 2 JHSF Porsche, which of course was driven yesterday in the session by Bruno Bonifacio, our reporter down in pit lane. Sadly, we can't hear the interviews that they will conduct this morning, but we will still be continuing with our coverage here on Motorsport TV. We actually had an interesting combination of drivers out on the circuit yesterday, but just to give you an idea as who's behind the wheel now, we have Edu Santos, we have Patricio Urbano, we have Nito, we have Vitor Batista, we have Julio Gonçalves has climbed behind the wheel of the treble 9, then Beto Xavier, Luis Souza. Leticia Buffoni has actually got behind the wheel of the number 72 Porsche. I had an inkling that they were probably going to field the 3rd driver in the all-female trio, Cecilio Raballo, who is the F4 Brazil race winner, but it turns out that Leticia Buffoni has been put forward for qualifying. Now, Leticia Buffoni is a name that not many people would probably associate with racing driving, because she doesn't just race in the Porsche Endurance Challenge of Brazil and the Porsche Sprint Trophy, but she is actually a Red Bull athlete in the X Games. She is one of the world's top skateboard competitors, and really impressive what she has done. She actually competed for a medal in the last Olympic Games that took place earlier this year, of course, in Paris. Fabulous competitor and a great athlete, Leticia Buffoni, and really starting to get the hang of life as a racing driver. It's still a bit of fun for her rather than her serious bit of competition. What a bit of a save that was from a very wayward Rimbano. That could have been very nasty indeed there, but the Giants Porsche was well and truly salvaged there. It was not the easiest of situations for the driver to find himself in there, but that was one heck of a save, it has to be said. Very tricky stuff. So as the competitors are now just starting to dial themselves in and build up the speed, obviously it's now going to be interesting to see how the competitors continue on their run. Pietro Rembano is currently the fastest driver though, having done a 1:39.926. That is to add to the times done yesterday in Q3. That time was a 1:44.87. Don't forget that all the times yesterday were in wet conditions, so these laps are going to be significantly faster as Vitor Batista goes to the top. A 1:39.217 for Vitor Batista. That is Nito that's just worked his way through the first corner. So Nito, one of the competitors in the field, of course. That's not to be confused with Asu Feldman Nito, who is sharing his car with Gabriel Casagrande, who you're going to see behind the wheel of the Lightning McQueen colours very shortly indeed, as they're just coming towards us, as that is Xavier heading into the first corner. We're going to see another replay. Now that is Leticia Buffoni in the Mobile 1 Porsche. What's she about to do? Oh, no, nothing of a particular note, as it turns out. I thought we were going to pick her out for an incident of some kind, but it turns out she did nothing to be concerned with. So Jose Moraneto behind the wheel of his particular car, and there is Gabriel Casagrande in Lightning McQueen mode. Great to see. The two-time Stock Car Pro Series Brazil champion, now in the Porsche Endurance Challenger Brazil, and how cool is this? It is a proper ka-chow lap from Gabriel Casagrande as he runs out in the number 95, the Rust-eze colours of the car that he shares with the teenager Asu Feldman Nito. Great to see this Porsche in these colours, putting in the paces. Now expect Gabriel Casagrande to be very fast indeed. We're going to see a replay of the number 66, now being driven by Fabio Carboni, taking over that car from Sadek Leiter. That is almost the race circuit. But on this particular occasion, Fabio Carboni just missed the exit of the turn there and completely misses the apex of the second part of the Senna S. As we watch the number 19 come through, that is Xavier behind the wheel, I do believe. Bruno Xavier sharing that car with Luis Landi and Tom Filio. But watch out for Gabriel Casagrande. I will be very surprised indeed if he's not in the top three at the end of this lap. He's gone top, 1:37.7. That is a very fast lap indeed, and both cars going clean off the road at turn one. So both cars clearly pushing for a fast time and ending up skating completely off the road into the first corner as a result of it. So I just wonder if there's a sprinkling of rain at that particular part of the course. There doesn't seem to be. Certainly no windshield wipers going ablaze at this moment in time. The blue flags are at 46. The 45, I should say, goes through and passes the slower car at that particular point. It is Felipe Batista who is behind the wheel of that car. Another serious competitor. Felipe Batista, of course, fighting for this year's Stock Car Pro title. Well, that's the reason why the 19, Bruno Xavier, went off. Looks like Gabriel Casagrande just went off with him in sympathy through the first corner. Problem is, you get tunnel vision following the car in front. You end up just going straight to the scene of the guy in front who made the mistake. Now, here is Vitor Batista going past the pits and actually, no, coming into the pits. So a bit of a change of strategy needed there by the look of it. As past the pits now goes Jose Mario Nito. So Jose Moranito comes through, and that is good enough to be P6 at the moment. No improvement in terms of lap time. 1:40.2 is what they did on the last lap, or 1:39.0 is the best they've done. So Gabriel Casagrande is currently the fastest man out on the course and has done a fantastic job to put himself there Still looking very fast with it at this moment in time. The second fastest car at the moment is Pietro Rembano in the... Oh no, Felipe Batista goes top. So Felipe Batista's now got up to the top spot on a 1:37.71. So only 0.06 of a second faster than Gabriel Casagrancha's lap time. So Rembano down to third. We're going to see another replay. This is into the first corner. This is Edu Santos sharing that car with Gabriel Robert. And again, so difficult to get this first corner right. You've got to remember the conditions today are completely different to what they were yesterday. So they're having to, some of the drivers, having to completely relearn their braking distances coming into it. Because don't forget, this isn't the first time that the Porsche Carrera Cup has been at Interlagos this year. In fact, the sprint drivers were here 2 weeks ago during the Sao Paulo Grand Prix and then again on Wednesday. For the endurance drivers, well, this is the first time they'll have driven on this course this year, because obviously the first two rounds of the championship were at Estoril in Portugal, and then the second round was at the Tomás de Rio Hondo circuit in Argentina. So we are currently watching Fabio Carboni, now in fourth position, trying to work his way further forward onto the tail of Rembano. Interestingly enough, he is the only challenge competitor in the field, Fabio Carboni, with his teammates Sada Kleite and Vito Mera. The number 66 car, that's the only challenge car in the entire grid, because all the others are either challenge sport or challenge rookies. So fascinating to see how this is all going to play out as a result of those competitors trying to find pace. I'm actually really impressed with Leticia Buffone's lap times, 1:42.7 for a driver that is nowhere near the same sort of form as like Felipe Batista and Pietro Rembano, who are professional racing drivers. She's a lot closer to them than she would have been back at Estoril. But you can see some spots of rain on the camera lens there, and for the second lap in a row, that was very close to the gauntlet running there for Edu Santos. Still trying to find the braking point in through that first corner, and still missing the apex just enough that it's noticeable. So we're going to get to see Gabriel Casagrancha get that little bit closer to him, and he's gone top again, 1:36.6. It's a big lap from Gabriel Casagrancha, really now starting to get into his stride. And you really do get to see some world-class drivers out here amongst the gentleman racers, shall we call them. So Casagrancha sweeps past Edu Santos as moving up through the ranks. That's an improved lap from Luis Souza. Luis Souza does a 1:39.866 as we're watching the X Games Red Bull skateboardist Leticia Buffoni. 1:42.7 for her at the moment. The only driver that is not lapping at similar pace to her at this moment in time is, of course, the car that has not yet set a competitive time. That is the Treble 9. So the Treble 9 having not set a competitive time yet. That is Joao Gonçalves sharing that car with Diego Soares and Claudio Reina. So there is Luis Souza sharing his car with Bruno Bonifacio. And Bonifacio was the one who actually set the time yesterday. Looking at where they're going to be combined with their two averages, because Casagrancha's gone quickest in this session. But if you combine it with yesterday's, then the pole position is actually going the way of Fabio Carboni ahead of his closest rival, Luis Souza. So Luis Souza trying to find a little bit more time, because on the average, they can actually make a bit of a killing here. If they can find another 0.3 of a second on average, then they're going to take pole position of the challenge competitors. Only 12 cars in the challenge classes. 1 challenge, 4 challenge sport, and then the other 7 are all challenge rookies. So it'll be fascinating to see how the competitors are going to find a little bit of pace from this over the line, and how much of a gain is going to be made here by Luis Souza. Well, he's just done a 1:38.931, which is enough to put them pole of the challenge competitors. So that is enough to put them up to the top spot. If you take the average time, because now their average is a 1:39.73, so that is enough for Luis Souza to go pole position for the race. Yes, they're only 6th in this category in session 2, but if you take yesterday's times and combine them with today's times, that is going to be enough for the number 2, Luis Souza, to go top spot. Casagrancha's lap time is now only 0.2 of a second quicker than Felipe Batista, but it's still enough for the number 95 car to be 3rd as it stands at the moment. So Casagrancia doing all the hard work, trying to find a lap time quicker than a 1:36.6. Is it doable? Is it possible from Gabriel Casagrancia this time? What sort of lap time has he been setting? He's just done a 1:36.4. Goodness me, that is a fast time. And their average now is a 1 minute 40.26, because in the very sodden and wet conditions yesterday, Alcifel Benito could only pull off a 1:44.0. But Casagrancia streets ahead, nearly half a second quicker than Felipe Bautista now in second place. Then it's Pietro Rembano in front of Bruno Xavier, Fabio Carboni, Vito Bautista, AO Garcia, and this man, Luis Souza, 8th position, although still looking good. Despite being 8th in session 2, they are good for pole position in the ranks at the moment, and they are only holding that by 0.08 of a second on average. Because if you add session 1 to session 2 and then find the aggregate time, the mean time, then that's how we determine the pole position. No improvements there for Luis Souza. That was a bit of a slow lap, but it looks like they're going into a fast one. 4.5 minutes to go in this second session. Obviously, we know already that it's going to be Marcel Muller and Enzo Elias that will start the final race of the year from pole position. And Werner Neugebauer and Rubens Barrichello are going to be getting away all the way down in 8th position. So it's a big mission for Neugebauer and Barrichello later as we watch the Tissi Buffoni. And now the windscreen wipers are on. So that means the rain has arrived. It's not very clear yet as to what the weather is going to do during the 4-hour race. I would guess that if it's going to be like this, it's going to be absolute carnage for 4 hours of racing. Because these cars are not the easiest to control at the best of times. And on a circuit that's as uphill and down dale as the Interlagos circuit is, so many camber changes, so many elevation increases. It's going to be such a difficult race for 4 hours around this circuit on a car that is very brake heavy. So we could see quite a few scary moments through the course of the 500 kilometers of Interlagos, the final race in this year's Porsche Endurance Series Brazil. So here comes Letizia Buffoni over the line. Can she make an improvement with her last lap? Well, she's done a 1:44.5, so that's similar sort of pace to what we saw yesterday in the wet conditions, actually. As Gabriel Casagrancia goes even quicker, a 1:36.24 from Casagrancia. And that has changed things dramatically. In fact, a faster time from Edu Santos. He's done a 1:39.72, and that's good enough to put them pole position of challenge competitors. 27th on the grid, of course. But of the 12 cars in challenge, they're going to be pole because they got a 1:38.9 yesterday. They got a 1:39.7 today. And on average, that's going to give them a 1:39.3. So that is now putting them ahead of Salza and Bonifacio. Good improvement from Garcia. And I've noted that Joao Gonçalves, he's done 3 laps of the course, but he hasn't actually set a qualifying time as yet. So I suspect they've got some kind of mechanical difficulty with that car. We're going to see a replay. Now this is a very wayward Bruno Xavier. Well saved, has to be said. Any other driver probably would have chucked that to the chicken house and have done with it, but very nicely handled there by Bruno Xavier. Over the line again. A few spots of rain. Edu Santos trying to get an improved lap time, and that was a fairly decent run. 1:39.64. That's an even quicker time. So that drops the average to a 1:39.275 now. So Edu Santos doing what he needs to do to put this car back into pole position for the challenge category drivers. Number 2 is going to be in P2 at the moment, Salza and Bonifacio. 3rd is likely to be Carboni, Mera, and later in the 66 car, the only challenge outright class car. And then the 95 should be in P4 for Casagrancia and Alcifel Benito after Casagrancia's lightning pace. He's just gone even quicker. He's just done a 1:35.99 as through comes Salza, having done a 1:40.4. So where is Casagrancia finding all this pace? It's pretty incredible. Vito Bautista's gone second on a 1:36.3. Felipe Bautista's done a 1:36.7. And Pietro Rembano has done a 1:36.9. So Casagrancia really finding extraordinary pace. Meanwhile, Pietro Rembano has actually gone faster than anybody in Sector 2. He's done a 29.96. What's that good enough to do? 1:36.4. So Pietro Rembano has definitely found a little bit more speed. And that's going to put them up into 6th on the grid on average, with an average time now of 1:40.679. So good work. But is there going to be enough time for Categorias to find even more pace from this car? I would probably have said not, because we're in the last 25 seconds of the session. So still the battles will rage here at Sao Paulo. And all the contenders are looking good for a final run to the line. As we look at Luis Souza on his final flying lap, he's not going to be able to start another one because the time is going to run down to 0 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that is the end of the session. So everybody on a flying lap can finish it. Is Luis Souza going quick enough to improve, or will he just bail into the pits? It's the latter. Oh, no, he thought twice about it and then came across the line. Well, Luis Souza was flirting with whether he come into the pits or not. And just as well he finished the lap. He does a 1:38.5, which is the best time they have set in this session, but it's not going to be enough to get pole position in the challenge category. They increased their average to a 1:39.52, so it's not bad going, as now we keep an eye on Vitor Batista. Now, can Vitor Batista get into the 1:35s? It's going to be tough. Let's see what he can do. There's no improvement there for Vitor Batista. He does a 1:36.3. No, he does improve. He does a 1:36.381, but Rimbano's done a 1:36.2. Fabio Carboni does a 1:36.376 right at the end there. So that puts them onto the front row. That displaces Souza and Bonifacio. So that puts the triple header, Carboni, Mera, and Leiter, onto the front row of the starting grid, alongside the current pole sitters, Edu Santos and Gabriel Roba. Any more late charges? Just waiting to see if there's one more roll of the dice. Well, it looks as though there's no major improvements there from Bruno Xavier. His best is still a 1:37.34. Here's Letizia Buffoni. Her best is a 1:40.64. If she can just creep into the 1:39s, then that's going to change the grid order for them quite dispassionately. Currently looking at 5th position, but if they can find another 0.5 of a second more from the average, let's see what Letizia Buffoni could do. It's a 1:40.507, and that has moved them up to P5. They've done a 1:40.43 now on average. So that does elevate them into 5th position, ahead of the trio of Rimbano, Bertuccelli, and Torresano. And it's game over for the number 2 of Luis Souza. They'd already finished the lap, so everyone has now completed their session. Fastest driver in this particular second session for the challenge is Gabriel Categorias on a 1:35.990, ahead of Pietro Rimbano, then Fabio Carboni, Vitor Batista, Felipe Batista, and João Garcia. And then Xavier, Morenito, Souza, Santos, Buffoni, and no time at all set by João Gonçalves. But what it means is that in the challenge category, the pole position will go to Edu Santos and Gabriel Roba. They have a combined average of 1:38.905. Alongside them on the front row will be Carboni, Merit, and Saita. Apparently, there is a... well, there could well be an investigation into the number 19. That is Bruno Xavier, for impeding the 95. That's Gabriel Categorias. So there could be a post-qualifying investigation that could change the grid potentially if they were to receive a penalty for that. But the fastest car from the qualifying sessions combined are Edu Santos and Gabriel Roba, the 2 drivers in the 38 car. 66 will be Carboni, Mera, and Sadek Leiter. They'll be second on the grid of challenge. And then 3rd will be the number 2. That is Luis Souza and Bruno Bonifacio from the 4th car, Gabriel Categorias and Alcifel Benito. Then in 5th on the grid for that race is going to be the trio of ladies, Antonella Bassani, Cecilia Arbello, and Letizia Buffoni. Great job on her final flying lap to get them back up to P5. Pietro Rimbano is sharing the car with Bertuccelli and Torresano. They will start 6 competitors. Then the 23 of Vitor Batista and Leonardo Herman. The 19 will be next up. That is Bruno Xavier along with Tom Fidio and Luis Landi. And then we have the 45 next up. That is the combination of Matias Roque and Felipe Batista. The 17, that's Jose Morenito and Ski. And then we have the last 2 cars in the mix, the 808 of Garcia Gonçalves and Keita. And then right at the very back, unfortunately, after problems yesterday, Claudio Reina, Diego Soares, and João Gonçalves lining up at the very back of the train. But what it means, of course, is that Gabriel Roba is going to be lining up in pole position along with Edu Santos in the challenge categories. They will start 27th overall because challenge comes after Carrera. But it's a great performance from the team, and I'm sure that Eric Santos and Gabriel Roba are going to be very happy with the way that has played out. And it's going to put them into the pole position for the challenge category. 6 champions, of course, to be crowned over the course of today. I think it's pretty much a guarantee who's going to be winning the challenge category because there's only one challenge car in the field. But there's still plenty for debate in challenge sport and challenge rookie, as well as Carrera, Carrera Sport and Carrera Rookie. Lots to do in the 500 kilometers that are coming up later today. So it's going to be a fascinating situation for all of the contenders. And we're looking forward to seeing how it all develops, how it all plays out. It's going to be fascinating to observe. So in a little under 4 hours' time, we're going to go racing for 4 hours around this fantastic Interlagos circuit. So that'll be at about 12:30 UK time, 1:30 Central European time. Keep an eye on things, folks, because the 4 hours that will decide the Porsche Endurance Series of Brazil is coming up later today. Pole position, the favourites for the title now, Enzo Elias and Marcel Müller, who has just become the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil champion. Can he make it 2 titles out of 2? Can he win the Porsche Endurance Series of Brazil as well? It's going to be a tough fight back from Werner Neugebauer and Rubens Barrichello. They go off P8 of the grid later today. So join us again in just under 4 hours' time, 12:30 UK time, 1:30 Central European time, as we get ourselves underway shortly for the race that will decide the Porsche Endurance Series of Brazil. From Jake Sanson and the whole crew, we'll see you in just under 4 hours for the 4 that decide the crown, the 500 kilometers of Interlagos.